All right, so in this lesson, we're going to talk about inequalities, writing, interpreting, and graphing them. Some of this is kind of basic, but we're about to get into some heavy stuff moving forward, so we need to really be sure that we're good with the basics. So first, let's start with what is an inequality. And the prefix in there means basically not equal. So we've got 5 inequality symbols, and you are going to want to write this down. You need to leave some room probably beside each one or maybe even under each one. Skip some lines so that you can write some examples for each. Okay, so this first one is less than. If you have trouble remembering the difference between the two, your left hand, if you take it and make an L right now, like your left hand makes the less than symbol. And we're going to be talking about number lines, so I'm going to just draw a number line at the bottom. Remember that number lines are set up 0, 1, 2, 3, and then when we count the negative numbers, they go backwards, right? So just kind of keep that in mind. So if I give you this example of x is less than 5, when we talk about that on a number line, we're talking about all the numbers that are smaller than 5. But what we want to do is show how you graph that. So I don't want to include 5, so I'm going to put it what we call an open circle here to say that 5 is not included. But I want to talk about any number, not just whole numbers, but any number that is smaller than 5, which is going to be this entire number line going to the left for infinity. Okay, if it's less than or equal to, like this next one, less than or equal to 5, in that case, we're going to be talking about a closed circle on 5. Still going to the left here because we're talking about less than. But notice here we do a closed circle. When we talk about greater than, and I'm just using 5 every time so I don't have to keep writing these numbers, greater than is going to be open here because there's no equal sign. I'm not talking about things that are equal to 5, I'm talking about things that are greater than. Those are going to go to the right because the number line gets larger to the right. And then greater than or equal to, this time because 5 is allowed to be a value, it's going to be a closed circle again. And greater than is going to go to the right. So just to be clear, notice that the closed circle has to do with this equal to sign underneath, right? That means that it's included. This not equal to sign, you might have seen me write this so far. I'm not really sure. Basically it means it's anything that would just not be that value. So if you had like x was not equal to 5, the graph of that would look like an open circle on 5 because it does not include. Not equal to means not included, but it means everything else. So it's like you would shade to the right and shade to the left. You just wouldn't shade this part in the middle here because it's not included. All right, so just one little thing to jot down. Closed means equal to, open means not included. So make sure you have that little cheat sheet for yourself in your notes. So now let's talk about word problems, which we've already done with equations and expressions, and we're going to do with inequalities. Hopefully you are listening right now. You are not going to write these entire word problems, so don't freak out that there's so many words. Okay. Remember that in word problems we have a few basic formats, and they are, we can have blanks that add together that somehow compare to a total. And the difference today is that we're not going to be putting an equal sign right here, but we're going to be putting some sort of like inequality symbol. Or we could be comparing two values and having some sort of inequality symbol in the middle right there. So those are kind of the two that we're going to go with. So let's label these. You can label them example 1, 2, however you want to do that, example 2. We're going to read it, and I'm going to highlight the part that you actually need to write down, and then we'll write down the solution. That way you know what it was you were looking at. Okay, so this first question. Nora is planning a birthday party for her little sister, Colleen. That's my name. Nora's budget will allow her to spend no more than $50 for party supplies. Okay, so at this point, I already know enough information. This says she is going to spend, and this is what I want you to write down, put in quotations, spend no more than $50. And you can write that in quotes when you write it in your notes. So we're going to translate that to mean that this is somehow she has some sort of budget for how, or amount that she's going to spend, and it is going to be no more than. No more means not more, which would be less than or possibly equal to, because she could spend $50. She has $50. So that's going to be less than or equal to 50. All right. So let's try another one. And sorry, just to be clear, it's this that you need to have written down. Those two things for example 1. All right, next example. Sergio needs to buy gifts for 8 friends. He wants them to be the same for all of his friends, and he plans to have them wrapped at an additional charge. If Sergio spends at least $70, he will receive free shipping. Okay, so we're going to highlight spends at least $70. That's the words that you need to write in your notes. And now we want to figure out how to set that up. Okay, so he's got this whole plan for how he's going to spend the money. He needs to spend at least. That means that amount or more. So that's greater than or equal to $70. And then we're going to work on, again, how to fill in this blank. But I just want you to work on setting that up. All right, let's look at some more. Example 3 here. The Daily Info charges a fee of $650 plus $80 per week to run an ad. The People's Paper charges $145 per week. So right now, I already noticed they're telling me about 2 different things. And the question says, and this is what we need to write down, for how many weeks must it run for the Daily Info to be less expensive than the People's Paper? All right, that's what you need to write down in quotations. So the solution here is I want to know when the Daily Info will be less expensive than the People's Paper. And we'll work on filling that in, but we're just working on the format. Okay, last example. Home cleaning company charges $312 to power wash the siding of the house, plus $12 for each window. Power cleaning charges $36 per window, but the price also includes power washing the siding. How many windows must be cleaned in order for the total cost from home cleaning company to be less expensive than power cleaning? All right, so now this is the same situation. I'm going to set up home cleaning needs to be less expensive than power cleaning. And that's how we are going to set up these inequalities. All right, this last part is about compound inequality graphs. So compound inequalities are kind of like compound words. Remember, compound words are when you have 2 words that go together. Like cheeseburger, right? That's cheese and burger together in one word. Okay, so we've got 2 different types here. We have or compound inequalities and. So or compound inequalities are going to be the, they're just a little bit different. So if it says or, it might read something like x is greater than 5 or x is less than or equal to 0. So if you think about the numbers that includes, you could pick 7 or 10. You could pick anything that is bigger than 5. So I'm going to look at 5 here, and I'm going to say anything that is bigger than 5, not including 5, right? Because it's just a strictly greater than and not equal to. Or I could also be talking about numbers that are less than or equal to 0. So that's going to be a closed circle here because it could equal 0, but it could also be less than. And so what we're going to do here is we're just putting 2 inequalities on the same number line. And this is what it looks like. You've got this double inequality written and 2 parts on the same number line. All right, so that's for or. For and, it's just a little bit different, and it can read a few different ways. A lot of times and reads with two inequalities written in one thing. So it's just going to say like x is less than or equal to 5 or greater than 0. And notice this right here, so you start with the x, you're going to read it backwards. And when you read this backwards, it literally says x is greater than, when you're reading backwards, 0. Right? If 0 is less than x, then x has to be bigger. So I'm going to show you how you graph this. Maybe if I can type the right things. I'm going to show you how you graph this. This is talking about 5 and 0. Now I'm talking about numbers that are both less than 5 and also greater than 0. Or another way to think about it is I'm talking about values of x that are between 5 and 0. So the graph of this one is a segment that is right here in between 0 and 5, because that's the only way you can pick a number that is both less than 5 and also greater than 0. And we are not done with compound inequalities, but this is what you need to know just at this point, is how to get both of these graphs and interpret the inequalities as they are written, either with the or two inequalities written in one.